Welcome, ladies, gentlemen. We're live and we're going to go over a lot of things. It's a late night show with the passive income investor. I'm just going to go over a bunch of stuff going on in the markets real quick while I'm hanging out. If any of you guys wish to join, we are going to share the live link. Let's see if we can pop this open here for anybody that's going to be coming in, and we'll see if we can get some conversations going. But today we're going to go over Tesla. Boeing CEO steps down. Something interesting going on there. They had a failed launch of one of their rockets into a certain orbit that they wanted. We're going to go over Mr. Beast, gave away $1 million. We're talking Cardone Capital, GEO Group, one of my holdings. We're going to talk a little bit about the Canadian GDP and what's going on in the Canadian markets right now because things are slowing down. I also wanted to take a look at some of the new tests the government's coming out with for checking out what the minimum income has to be to keep yourself functioning and afloat here in the Canadian economy. That should be coming out, I think, this February. But what is going on, Gen X investor? It's a late night finance chat. I'm looking for somebody that wants to hop on the stream with me here. I'll share the StreamYard link here again for you. See if I can pop this in here. But yeah, there's a lot going on in the markets, guys. There's a lot going on in general, so it's going to be fun to take a look at just some of the news. I don't think I have to go on too much about Tesla in the beginning here. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard enough about that over the last little bit. But a lot of people have been talking about the Boeing CEO step down and that. Yeah, I know. We got to get Hidden Freedom Investing. You got to hop on here, see if we can get you in the chat. But yeah, I figured I'd just see if anyone was floating around tonight. Wanted to talk some of the crazy stock market news going on. Everyone's portfolios, I imagine, are doing pretty well right now. Even in this Monday, we still seeing a lot of green, a lot of green. But if you guys have any questions either of what's going on out there, what is going on with your positions, I'd love to take a look and we'll just actually pop them up. I've kind of separated everything this time so I can actually take a look at some of the positions you guys might be talking about. But yeah, I just want to jump into some of the news going on because have you guys actually started looking into Boeing after we got a few suggestions on the last stream? I took a look at it, and in our chat group, we were talking a lot about I think the what's Air Canada came up because it seems to be one of like the best performing Canadian stocks over the last couple of years. On top of that, guys, I can't believe that failed launch. CEO finally stepped down, kind of just trying to dig everything under the carpet. We're trying to bury up that news now is what it looks like they're trying to do and play recovery game here while they have to hold back. I can't even remember the amount of money they were losing, but it was something absurd over over that I think it's like every month they're losing something like $1 billion. I don't know what it was. Are the markets overvalued? I don't think so. I think I always look at the markets the same way I look at like real estate. There's always a deal out there. There's always something that you can find on sale. So I don't know. I don't ever like looking at the markets as though they're overvalued because I am buying individual stocks. And if you're buying indexes, I mean, just cost average in. If you're buying at all-time highs today, well, you're probably going to be buying for the next 10, 20 years. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. But yeah, I was going to see if Matt was floating around tonight. I was trying to get a few people on the stream. It's nice to see we got a bunch of people in here tonight. It's good to see you all. Happy holidays. But yeah, I was trying to get Matt on, but I don't know what happened to him. So I'm hoping he's going to pop on somewhere in between here. But if any of you are interested, feel free to take the StreamYard link, throw it to your friends, and see if we can get some good conversations going tonight. And I'd love to know what's going on with your portfolio, guys. But moving into some other news as well. Mr. Beast. I don't know if you guys watch Mr. Beast. What a YouTube channel. The guy's giving away a lot of money over the holidays. I think it's really nice what he does with the gifts. They kind of flew all over the states, and they were giving away all kind of Christmas gifts, which was I thought was pretty adorable. And then on top of that, they gave away $1 million. But I noticed if you guys watch some of the real estate channels, what's the one? Meet Kevin. He was kind of criticizing a little bit the way they gave the money away because unfortunately, I think it's a little hard to give them straight cash. So he couldn't just give them $1 million. They actually had to go out and spend it. And they didn't really invest it like they said they were. And they kind of couldn't talk to like the actual broker that was doing the stock market deals for them, which would have been really interesting to see how they were investing it in the markets. Stocks. It's good to see you here. He says, what are you saying? Christmas is for consumers. Well, yeah, but we're all consumers in some way. I mean, we're all using products, right? I mean, we're all consumers to some extent. Just depends on what we're buying. I mean, I got gifts for my parents, my girlfriend. Obviously, I didn't splurge. We didn't go too crazy. Not Mr. Beast style splurge in here, but just some nice little things. Budget's pretty low. I imagine most people do the holidays that way. But honestly, I think it's really nice. Even when I got a haircut today, And when I got my hair cut, I actually tipped the hairdresser, which is something I don't do too often. But I think the holidays are nice because everyone seems to be in such a giving mood. She had a bunch of gifts she was giving out to some of her regulars, and on top of that, everyone's giving chocolates out. I kind of like the cheerfulness of it all, but not the biggest fan of the whole charade of how it's become such a commercialized holiday. Because even people that come to Canada, especially considering how diverse the culture is, they always say the same thing. They're like, we don't really celebrate Christmas where we come from, but you kind of celebrate Christmas here because everybody celebrates Christmas now. It's like the most universal holiday of life, and it used to be just a kind of niche little religious holiday for a while, until obviously the consumers got involved, and then what can be until it became a consumer's holiday, to say the least. You can give it away. What else we got going on in here, Gen X? You seem to be pretty lively tonight. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well. Hope the holidays are treating you well. You're getting to see some family. If you take from your lifetime exclusion, just reading through here, guys. Geez, Valentine's is the worst. Actually, we don't. No one. Honestly, I never found Valentine's to be a big deal, man. I mean, every girlfriend I've ever had, it's never been like the biggest celebrated holiday. Never had an issue with that one for sure. I don't know. You sound like you might have some past stories behind that one. The big scam is the ring, man. That's the iffy conversation, because I mean, how much do you really want to spend on that? And then on top of that, if you're spending that much, you're getting insurance, right? So it's an interesting topic in and of itself. Actually, I brought my. I don't want to spoil it in case my girlfriend's watching this, because I got her this really cool thing that's related to SpaceX and Elon Musk, and I don't want to spoil it. It's such a good gift. It's like reasonably priced. I don't want to say much more than that, but yeah, I like kind of getting into when I'm buying gifts sometimes. I like to look at like what's going on in the world and always try and buy it based off some meme or something that's more relevant to today, not just some random obliterate gift. It's the same way I like to travel too. I don't like to just travel for the sake of traveling. Usually, if we're going somewhere, I like to have some kind of purpose behind it. Makes it a little bit more meaningful than just sitting on a beach. Buying your wife. What does this say here? Buying your future wife a ring is worth it. Trust. Well, unless it's Jeff Bezos' wife, because that ring came with one heck of a cost. Richest woman overnight, man. I think is how that worked out. I was driving around in like a wealthier neighborhood, and there was this Cadillac, and on the license plate it said "Thanks to my ex," and I took a photo of it because it was almost right after the whole Jeff Bezos thing. And I was just sending it to everyone. I'm just like, oh, this might be his wife floating around in the neighborhood here. But this is a joke. But yeah, no, it's you got to be careful, man. But it's an interesting day too, because if we want to get into that topic, you could also just talk about common law. You can just live with people. It doesn't even have to be your wife. It could probably even just be a friend. You could just have even a guy friend, or you're just a girl with a girlfriend over, and you've been living together for a long time, kind of sharing stuff, and then all of a sudden something bad happens, and before you know it, it becomes a bit of a nightmare. But I always have one rule of thumb, and it's like if you really like, if the big thing is like cheating and you're going to cheat, well, you might as well just break up first and then cheat, because it's a heck of a lot cheaper than causing a war there. And not a topic I was planning on going down this evening. But how's everything going, Henry? Henry, I haven't heard too much from Henry. How are you, sir? Everything's going pretty fantastic this evening. It's going to be a good hangout session. It looks like a lot of people are floating around. We got some people in the stream. If any of you are willing to join, let me know. I'd love to get some of you guys on here and have a real conversation, because there's some serious news going on out there. I wanted to touch base on a few things that I was hoping Matt was here for, because Matt has some investments in Cardone Capital, and I've been watching some stuff with Grant Cardone as well, and I wouldn't mind touching base to see what's going on with his investments there, because I mean, since he's come out with Cardone Capital, it's only been a pretty new thing, and it'd be neat to compare it to maybe like something like Fundrise. Let's see what else we got for questions. What are you guys talking about down there? I'm just throwing out some news. So if you guys have any questions on the stuff I'm talking about, I'd love to hear your inputs as well. Do you have any opinion on fuel cell technology and the Canadian company Ballard Power? We got Toronto housing market is insane, as high power as Vancouver. Yeah, I'll start with your stock question here, because that seemed kind of interesting, just to see what you're talking about. I just want to look this up, actually. You say, do you have any opinions on fuel cell technology? Now, what do you mean by fuel cell technology? Because I'm not 100% certain of that term, because I've also never heard of this company before. For a second, I thought you were talking about maybe like batteries, but I don't think you are. But let me take a look at this stock here. We'll throw it up for everyone to take a quick peek at. So we're looking at a stock that currently isn't profitable with a $2.14 billion market cap. And oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, it's been on fire lately, considering over the last year, it's up roughly 181%. See if we can get you to see that there. Not 100% certain of what this is. So, I mean, Pokey, if you can, continue letting us know in the comment section there why you're so interested in this stock. I'd love to know. And maybe I'll take a deeper dive, but to keep everything going here. Toronto housing market. Yeah, if you're from Toronto, I was just visiting a friend of mine downtown, and I couldn't get over it because I'm trying to convince him to let me, rent his apartment off of him there, his condo, or sublet it to me. But he says he probably wouldn't be able to get away with it because he's renting it, and he doesn't want to leave because his mother passed away, and he's been renting out his mom's house, and he's debating on whether he wants to give up the downtown life. But the thing is he's renting this apartment. It's right downtown. Like it's like probably a 5-minute walk from Union Station, which is the main train station. I swear to God, $950 a month. This condo is probably worth over $1 million. And I'm just like, oh man, if we could just do the whole starving artist thing and convince your landlord. He's like, I know, but I know her so well, and she's on the same floor, and he's like got top floor, like amazing view, rooftop. It's a pretty small condo. We're talking like 600 square feet, but you'll never be living downtown for that price. Not that I want the downtown life, but the Canadian real estate, man. I own some Canadian real estate on RioCan as well, which is one of the safer stocks. I like what they're projecting for the future here, but at the same time, the real performing Canadian stocks have been them small caps, especially the industrials there, like the warehouse ones. There's been a few sectors within the housing market in Canada that have just been absolutely on fire. But on that note, I would love to know what you guys think if you live in Canada about the living standard they're about to come out with, because I think by February the government's going to be releasing exactly how much you need to make now in certain places in Ontario to actually be able to afford to live comfortably, because things are getting expensive because of fuel prices, carbon tax. We're looking at food going up 6 or something percent next year. Everything's going to be jumping up big time, so it's going to be fun to see how all of this is going to work out. Whether the Canadian housing market comes down at all, I think we're going to keep seeing a trend sideways, just because there's still a lot of money floating around, a lot of foreign investment, a lot of people coming in, and there's just it's just not me and you raising the housing market, ladies and gentlemen. It's just not me and you. But yeah, I imagine if you have the capital, you can afford it. Find one of those wedge deals, and you're actually like invested into maybe making a rental. But I'm sure some people on here, like Dave, would probably agree that he'd probably rather have dividend stocks, though. But I also enjoy looking, a little bit beyond the stock market here as well. My expenses per month in Vancouver are $1,850. That's depending on where you're in Vancouver, man. It sounds like a lot, but in perspective of what it's costing to live anywhere near the city these days, I figure worst case scenario, my best plan would be to do shared housing. Luckily, kind of around the outskirts of the city where I wouldn't mind living and getting a car, you can actually rent like a room in a mansion with like 8 other people for $500 to $700 a month. I wish I should try and refine it and see if it's still available and show you guys this house, because I drive by it regularly, and I found it on Kijiji. And literally, they were renting. It would come with one room and a bathroom, and everything else is shared. There's 8 or 9 people in this mansion. It was really interesting. But yeah, there's no way I could live downtown on a 2,200. That's what the average rent is right now. I think for a condo downtown, 2,200, $2,300. Definitely do the basement apartment thing if you're single life, and unless you can afford it, man. Like, what's the rule of thumb? Your housing shouldn't cost you much more than 30% of your take-home pay, just because you don't want to be house broke, which is a sad reality of most people in Toronto. Two incomes probably providing about 70 to 100,000 a year, and their expenses are probably fairly substantial, which means they're probably not fortunate enough to put away 20% of their income, especially if we're talking about families here, things of that nature. Oh, my phone bill is $15 a month. That includes food. Oh, that includes food too. Okay. It sounds cheap, actually, if that includes food too. You're asking the question there. I noticed there's a Hidden Freedom Investor. If you got your mic working there, man, you should hop back on. You should hop back on. I'll reshare the link in a bit if any of you guys would like to join me here live. I would love to invite you in. But we got a few other interesting things going on here. I've heard some people finding some pretty cheap phone deals. In fact, if you live in Toronto here, you can get some insanely cheap deals. But you can get something. What's the name of it? I can't remember off the top of my head. But at the same, they're they're just really cheap because the infrastructure for the companies are much smaller and they're mainly city based. So if you drive out to where I live, unfortunately, you're very limited to things like Rogers, Bell, maybe Telus. There might be one or two other ones, but honestly, Chatter. Chatter's the one I was thinking about that there. Chatter's the real cheap one. You can get some pretty cheap phone plans unless you're doing Andre Jake, whatever his name is there. He also has an insanely cheap phone plan, from my understanding. Honestly, you should just do what my girlfriend does. If you live in the city, just do Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi calling, it's honestly the best. If you don't have to come out to the middle of nowhere like where I am right now. You see that sheep right here, that in that photo, that definitely represents what it looks like if it was daylight. And I kind of drag this over to the window here. I swear there's nothing out here. But what else is going on here, guys? What else we got here? My phone plan's $28 a month. Honestly, dudes, I'm paying $50 a month. That gives me Canada wide text calling. On top of that, I get 4 gigs of data. It's really not the greatest plan ever, but it's almost like a dead 50 a month. And also, when I travel to the States, it's really nice because they came out. Rogers has a new a plan now where it charges you $7 a day when you're out of the country or within the Western world. So if you travel to the States or to Canada, it should only be like $7 a day, which is super, super nice. Because since I've been down to the States twice this year, it was nice to only be down there for, say, a week, and it would only cost me like I don't know what it was, like an extra 20 or $30 or something. It really wasn't that bad. Let's see what else. Yeah, 2,400 is crazy expensive. It is, but I mean, it's the world we live in. But as Dave Ramsey would say, you might have to change your area code. But in Canada here, man, you'd be changing your area code from like everything. Like you'd be going for days away at this point. I mean, like I said, most of us millennials, including myself, are sitting on here on a relatively decent chunk of change, and there's no way I could get approved for a mortgage without having, say, my parents as a cosigner. But Canadian economy is in a weird state right now, where it's kind of the big divide between the rich and the poor. But that seems to be the way the world's headed, man. If you don't, I think me and Matt were briefly discussing Andrew Yang there, because he was on H3 podcast and he was talking about just the problems with the way most people, the S&P 500 going up doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to them. They're all millennials, student loan debt. Most 50% of Americans, when the S&P goes up, they don't feel it. They don't care about it. It doesn't affect them, which is a shame. It's a damn shame. That's the reality that we live in, considering it's the equivalent of winning the lottery. If you've thrown any money in the markets, generally away from them penny stocks, and you focused on those at least top 500 companies, like you would have got some kind of return over this last 10 years. It's been in a crazy market. So I memean, it always hurts me inside when I hear these stories of people losing money on like these things like the the MJ sector, or because it's like their first stock they buy, and it's the first thing that you're getting into, and then it really kind of cringes them for the rest of the investment career they have, when really it was some terribly bad advice that got them into it. But let's read through. Okay, here we go. So Pokey is kind of replying to us about this stock. Let's draw this up and see what you're saying there. It says, Ballard makes hydrogen fuel cells and their business seems to be picking up. I was just wondering if you think there is a future for hydrogen fuel cells. To be honest, I have absolutely no idea. Hydrogen is not my game. Batteries are my game. I've looked at battery companies for a long time, and I've watched them explode. One of the best investments you could have made in the short term. I think there's a company called LAC, is one that I used to trade a little bit back in the day, my trading days. But I've watched it explode. I think Tesla's a really good play for batteries, but batteries just seem to be the way the world's headed. But don't quote me on that. I mean, I have investments in nuclear power. Nuclear power is changing immensely over the next few years, and I think people are severely underestimating what's about to come in the nuclear field, because now they're finding like they're like the safest way of building nuclear technology. You build it underground, and instead of building one big reactor, you build multiple tiny reactors, like 8 to 12, I think they said, in one cell. And then they have electro valve shutoffs, and they're also immersed in water underground, so they're always cooled. And then that way, if the power ever goes out, the electromagnetic shutoff just automatically kills it. But yeah, you should take a look. I own some nuclear power plants with Southern Company. I also got Northland Power, which deals mainly with solar. They do a bit of coal still, I think, but they're mainly dealing with offshore wind projects in Germany. They're starting to apply some more. It's one of my favorite stocks. I've held it for years. The rate of return is it's fairly above average market return. It's really like one of my beloved companies, just because it's one of the first ones I ever bought. They pay monthly, and when my average yield on cost is like 5.5, a little more than that because I've had to move it around into different accounts over the years. But yeah, the energy sector is going to get real interesting, man. It's going to get a little wild here, I think, over the next 5 to 10 years, especially considering the way batteries are going and the fact that they're getting way more efficient. So hydrogen, it's not something I've heard nearly as much about. But what else is going on, guys? What else? What else we got? I will invest every month until I die. Totally agree, 100% with you. Cash, as Grant Cardone says, cash is useless if it's just sitting there. The only time it has value is when it's flowing. That's the term currency. Currency has to be current, right? How do you split your focus between investing in the NSX and versus the TSX? Well, that is not a tough decision, my friend. That's a really good question. I really appreciate that question. Kenrick Beckett, if I'm pronouncing your name right there, says, "How do you split your focus between investing in the NSX?" I'm sure that's. It shouldn't be a tough question just because look at the TSX right now. I just talking about the Canadian economy, and it's not exactly lit because of the factories that have been closing with GM, which is actually considered car parts for one of the largest parts of our GDP for a long time, along with oil. Now it's the service industry, but yeah, well, after that plant closed, we've seen a massive, not a massive, but a reduction in GDP. And I mean, look at the TSX in general, man. Just look at it. It's despicable. I look at my bank holdings, and I'm glad I have my banks for the dividends, but at the same time, just the performance has been a little underwhelming to say the least. But you kind of have to take on a little bit of risk if you're buying Canadian stocks, I think, because the dividend stocks haven't been the best plays ever. And we're talking the growth stocks have done fairly well if you got into the MJ sector at the right time. If you also got into, say, Shopify's been on fire. We have a few niches, like I said, Air Canada, been on fire lately. But they come at risk. They're a little bit more risky companies because just the dividend companies just aren't doing it anymore because I don't know what's going on considering the amount of the way the real estate's been going. There's just some big like the way things are separated right now don't make a whole lot of sense, to be honest, in a lot of different parts of this market. Considering the money flowing into real estate, it's just kind of it's kind of makes you delirious to trying to figure out what the connections are and why things are so drastically different. Yeah, what else? What else? What else? We got anyone else watching Cineplex as it got bought and went to 40% in a day? Yeah, I watched that, my friend. Cineplex was one I've been watching for a long time because it's been on a part of a watch list, and I always check up on it once in a blue moon. Cineplex, I watched get that. I heard that buyout, had to check the stock, couldn't believe it was up that much. But at the same time, man, that if it wasn't for that buyout, shareholders would not be happy. But I think it's ripping out like a 5.5% yield right now. Let's take a look at Cineplex real quick here because that Cineplex is a Canadian one too, is it not? Don't quote me on that. Let me take a look. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Cineplex is a Canadian one. Another prime example of just companies in Canada that haven't been doing that great with a 5.28% yield with a market cap of 2.1 billion still, and there's that little buyout overnight. But man, that buyout, if you held that stock, you wouldn't be happy as it really didn't do anything but go down until that buyout happened. GE is SHT. I totally agree with you. My thing I have against GE is that we own GE products, and when they've been going through the hell they've been going through, it took them 6 months to fix something that we bought. It was a stovetop, and the elements burnt out, and it had roaches. We bought some of their stuff, and it gave us roaches, and we don't have roaches here in Canada, not where I live, anyways. Luckily, winter kills those bugs because they're not exactly winter type bugs. But oh my god, I couldn't get over the products because some issues with GE there, my friend. Here's one more thing on the hydro sector. He says, look into Hydro One. I have actually owned Hydro One. I have a big misery with Hydro One. I wish I held on to it because it came back. But I'll tell you my little story with Hydro One here. But I'll throw your comments up so everybody can see a quick peek. I think it's a great company. It's one of those long-term companies. But Hydro One, oh man, I can't get over that company. They ripped a lot of people off once upon a time. So when I bought Hydro One somewhere around the IPO, cost averaged into it for a little while, and then all of a sudden our hydro bill here started going up a lot, and we couldn't figure out why. I started calling, complaining. My mom gave up. It's impossible to talk to those people. Then her friend came in and eventually convinced Hydro One to give us like a rebate. They actually like refunded us. Like it was a decent chunk. I think it was a couple months of free hydro or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But then it found out they gave everybody rebates because it turns out they had a big problem with their system, and they got real political for a while. And I really hate political utilities. just in the utility sector, because things get real dicey real quick. And I just had so many issues with Hydro One on the political spectrum. Because you look at Lavalin, NCN Lavalin, that company, after the whole hit with Trudeau and scandals, and if you guys don't know, that was just some energy company that's a Canadian base that was doing under the counter deals, buying foreign investors off and things like that. It caused the stock. They had to split parts of the company off. It got real bad real quick. So it left a bad taste in my mouth. The only company that I want to own that's political is GEO Group, because it's just in a really weird spectrum where I can't. I can imagine why it's a prison company, so it has a reason to be political, but at the same time, it has a different subset of things that can't destroy it. Whereas with Hydro One, it should be a lot less political, but it went through one heck of a tangent there. Actually, I could show you guys the problems they had, and then I'm going to get to some more of your questions here as well. But just because I own this stock and I followed it for such a long time, because I was so hyped when they IPO'd, and you can see if I held on to it, I took a bit of a loss on that one. I'm not going to lie, because we can see that dip that it took. And what was that? Just pretty much after the IPO, we had a little run up, followed by pretty much downhill for a while. Oh, we got Matt. Matt made it. Oh, I got to join him in here. Good time to join, my friend. There's so much going on. We've been talking about. Everybody's lit up, man. It's a nice evening here. How are you?
Not bad, man. Not bad. Sorry, I'm a little bit late.
Oh, it's no problem at all. I'm sure it might have been personal, family related. I won't dig deep into that. You got your own stuff going on. It's the holidays. But we're glad to see you here. So you're at your parents, correct?
Yeah, at the parents. I just went to sleep, so I was able to sneak away and
very nice.
Act like I'm an 18-year-old high school kid again, which is nice.
Yeah, nice, man. I'm just going to answer a few questions here, and then I'll let you just kind of butt in here whenever you want. I've just been going over a lot of the news in the markets right now, asking anybody that they wish to join in that they're welcome to. I'll reshare the link again here in a sec. But I was just talking about some of these companies and the political problems that the reason I won't own certain utilities, because things like SNC Lavalin here in Canada went through a huge political split because they were bribing kind of foreign people. And I used to own Hydro One, and I ended up selling it because of the political problems that ended up arising with it. And then I started talking a little bit about GEO Group, and I just want to answer this one question here from Stocks. It says, is GEO Group at a good price point right now, you think? Honestly, it's probably one of the highest paying dividend stocks I've ever found that can actually afford to pay it. And it just comes down to a moral standard and the understanding that the news is just like any other company in like the sin stocks sector, where there's a lot of hate against it. And in California, we know there's a ban coming in, but Trump just allowed the ICE, I think as they call it, gave out a few more contracts to GEO Group, and I think Core Civic in California, that's multi-million-dollar contract for the next 15 years, and they just slipped it in there literally, I think on December 19th or the 20th, and it was like a big middle finger to the entire California government there. So I don't know what's going on with that, but at the same time, it's a rock solid company with lifetime beds filled. So I mean, it comes down to your own personal, do your own homework with it. It's just one of my higher risk dividend stocks that I'm going to use to kind of quickly fund the account to further allow me to buy other companies. Sorry, I talk about this company a lot, so but yeah, we got a bunch of guys going on in here, Matt. We got Gen X in here tonight. I'm not going to bring up the question that Stocks just brought up, which is kind of funny. It's almost Christmas. I'm sure you can see that there. But you just posted a video recently going over your entire portfolio.
Yeah, I figured I had 8 weeks or 8 videos to beat out Gen X dividend investors, so I figured might as well beat them to the punch. But yeah, I figured it was either that or do something on real estate like Fundrise or Cardone Capital. So
I'm so glad you're here. That's what I wanted to ask you about. It was I wrote a really junky list of things that I wanted to talk about, and I was really hoping you were going to be on, because I really wanted to ask you about Cardone Capital, because I'm not sure, I can't remember if you said you had Fundrise, but considering Cardone Capital is so new, I wanted you maybe to just explain real quick what your thoughts are, what your experiences with it since you've been in it, and has it been a good experience so far? Has things been professional?
So for me, it seems a lot more professional than I would expect. So I mean, you have to take, I mean, to even get in, you kind of have to give them, previous tax returns, previous like a official IDs, whether it's passport, whether it's, state issued IDs, stuff like that. So that way, when they generate K1s, they're legitimate, and they're not just like off into no man's land. So in respect to that, you kind of have to get everything really certified to be able to join. It seems more legitimate, but some people might think that takes too long. Why do they need so much information when you can sign up a Fundrise within the order of like 20 minutes and get everything funded? So it is what it is. But so far so good. I mean, I think I invested in like May, June-ish timeframe, and I actually started getting payments in July, August timeframe. I forget which one. So this year I've made like 200 and some bucks. I think it was like $270 or so from returns in terms of dividends from Cardone Capital. But averaging, it should be about 4.5% in terms of like the actual cash flow. But the hope is obviously that you get the capital appreciation with owning a portion of individual what's the word I'm looking for? Individual properties.
Yeah,
So
I was
for
also going to ask,
instance,
what did they promise you? What were they saying? Because I looked at it briefly, but wasn't it? Don't they try and get your dividend somewhere up to about 5%?
so they try to give you about 6%. So they try to give you like a preferred 6%, which is fine. But basically, what it is they kind of group up certain real estate investments. So in the case where I was looking at, there was two apartment complexes. One which was like not too far away from where I was living before, in Sugar Land, Texas, which I was living in downtown Houston area. So it's about 30 miles away from where I was living. So I knew that area. So I was pretty comfortable with investing in that. And then another one was, I believe, in Florida, in Delray Beach, Florida. And so I looked at the prospectus associated with that and was comfortable with that. So it's a little bit different in the respect that you get a lot more details about individual properties that you might be investing in. Whereas like a real estate investment trust, it's kind of just like, here's all the list of properties. There's like 4,000 of them in the case of like Realty Income Corp, or 3,000 in the case of WP Carey. So in that respect, it's a little bit different because you're investing in a select portion of each apartment complex in that case. And so if they do any specific capital expenditures to increase rent roll or anything like that in that particular apartment complex, you benefit directly, whereas people in another fund that don't have access to, say, that apartment complex in their fund wouldn't get that. So they actually ended up buying two other apartment complexes after I signed to that specific fund. So I think the total fund was about 50 million, of which when I was in, it was like 36 or so million had already been secured. And that's why they only had the two apartment complexes. So I actually think they just opened up another one, which was like Fund 8 or something like that, which I didn't like. So I'm thinking about whether or not I should double down or see how it continues to go. But
yeah, I would love
a
to
lot
see
of
how it
people,
works out.
yeah, I think a lot of people are very divided on it. So a lot of people think that Grant's either a huge scam artist or he's actually someone that is truthful and kind of knows what he's doing. So it
Yeah,
is what it is. So.
it's still pretty new. That's why I'm so interested in buy it. I honestly was right to the edge of giving them some money as well, but the problem is that is just the fact that I have foreign income tax, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well because that income counts towards your regular income, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, with us, the problem that I have is that not only do you get that counted towards your income, you pay the 15% over the border tax. So it's such a shame because it's just like, unless I can leave the money down there in a U.S. bank account, I don't have the luxury of just hiking the money back across the border and maybe putting it into an account. It looks like we have somebody else that wants to pop on here, and I think they're just popping on by audio. And it's stocks here. There's been throwing me at some of those questions about some stuff. So let's see if we can get somebody else on here. Let's pop them on.
So I think just like with any real estate, though, I think Cardone Capital ends up being a little bit tax depreciated as well.
All right, let's see. Sorry to interject here. I think we can hear you there. Stocks. It sounds a little quiet, but go ahead.
So I'm an investor. I do growth stocks and dividend stocks. That's it.
Well, welcome to the game, my friend. That's
Yeah,
pretty
man.
much that's pretty much my portfolio is just growth stocks and a good amount of dividend stocks. What holdings do you have?
I bought Disney before it blew up,
Very nice.
and I have CRISPR. You know that stock?
I do
Yeah, I don't
not.
know that.
It's
I'll
a
pull it up right
biotech
now.
stock. It went up
Chris-
40% this year, so
Oh.
pretty good.
Not bad, not bad. Yeah, Disney was one that I hated on for a little bit because I was so speculative about their streaming service, and I watched people buy it on the first hype that it ran, and I was really hesitant on it because I'm like, they have to prove a lot here, and then boom, they crushed it. I shouldn't have betted against them there. I'm not the biggest fan of Disney, but it's done so well for investors this year. But yeah, so here's yeah, you're right. This CRISPR company has been on a tear lately.
Yeah.
And it seems like a big growth one. It's not profitable. It's got a $4 billion market cap, no dividend yield. Yeah. How much of your portfolio is made up by spec stocks or just speculation?
No, that's the only one I own.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what are your dividend stocks?
I have 3M.
Classic.
What else do I have? I have Colgate. I love that company.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnson Johnson, of course.
Great company.
Like that. All blue.
Very
chips.
nice. Are you? Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say how long you've been investing and how long's your time horizon.
Well, only for like a year and a half because I'm 18. So.
Oh,
Amen.
wow.
Good work,
oh
good
man.
work.
Always an applause for that at 18. Do you have any debts? Are you going to school?
Man, my expenses are literally like $100 a month.
So you're living at home probably with the rents?
Yeah.
And you're not going to school or anything? Any plans? Are you just going to work, try and get in the investment side of things, or what's your plans?
I just finished high school and I'm working a job right now. Some slave job.
We all got to start somewhere, man. We all got to do it. I still do it. I still might be doing some other stuff too. But yeah. So you don't have. I don't know how much you are willing to talk about. Maybe your job, your income at your job. Do you what's your outlook? How long are you going to be living where you're living for? I mean, you're 18, so I'm throwing a lot of questions at you here. But
yeah, I don't own a car because it's a liability and fuck that shit. Because I have a friend. I have a friend who's 16 and he let his dad finance him a car, and right now he's living to pay off his car.
Mm-hmm. I've been there, man. I'm still there, bro.
Yeah,
so you must. Where do you live?
Like that, you know?
Yeah, where do you live? If you don't have to be specific, but just general.
What's the zip code?
Yeah.
Street address.
L8J.
Yeah, because to not drive is a huge luxury most people can't afford. So I mean, just to cut that off alone, I was just talking a little earlier about living downtown because my buddy's renting a place for $950 a month right downtown Toronto. Blows my mind. And I was joking. My car cost me about $500 a month. I said your entire condo downtown is a little under half as much as I'm paying for my car already. I'm like, you know how much that hurts? So it's like, ouch.
Buy used, bro.
But 100%. Every car I've ever bought was used. The most I've ever paid for a car was $10,000, and even I thought that was a stretch. But that car took me to six figures, so I am not too disappointed with it, to say the least. It's definitely been a return. But yeah, man. So what kind of job are you working? If you don't mind us asking, or mind me asking, I don't want to push you too far here, but feel free.
It's like some factory job. It's some slave job, but I make like $30K a year.
Okay, yeah, that's crushing it. If you're living at home, man, or you're only paying $100 a month for any kind of real expenses at 18, geez, man, if you can bank even half of that a year for at least the next few years.
Yeah, the thing is, my parents kind of want me to move, but I don't want to. I want to save.
If your parents are going down that path already, man, honestly, sit down with them and just talk to them seriously about it, and just say like, look. Because my parents completely understand what it's like here, and I get along with them well. But honestly, I'm tired of living at home. But they get the aspect of what I'm trying to achieve. And the fact is that even if I live at home for another 2 more years, the benefit that I'm going to have, going forward is going to be absolutely insane. But you have to come to terms with them, because if not, it's going to become a headbutting competition until they finally pull the final straw and kick you out. But you just say, look, I want X amount of years. Here's my plan over the next 3 to 5 years. If you guys can help me out, I'd really appreciate it. It tends to go over a lot better.
I want to save for a duplex, but I'm kind of far off right now.
Oh man, hey, you're not even that far off, man. 18 to already have that plan set out, because I was an idiot at your age. I was 20K in debt off, some stuff that I didn't wish I did it the way I did it, but I didn't start.
Business, right?
Yeah, but I would have done it so much differently, because when you're a kid, to be honest, at your age, when I look back when I was your age, I was an idiot. And I wish I had half the sense you had right now, because to me it was just, oh, I know what you need. Just buy this and see, like, just buy it. It'll be fine. It'll work out, whatever. Go and spend thousands of dollars and then find out how much and how hard it is to actually go out and get clients and make the income required to pay it back, along with living or whatever else. So I learned real fast. It took me a good 2 or 3 years to pay that 20K back. I didn't even start investing until I was 23, man. But it was a good learning curve, and it definitely set me into the right path, because I mean, if I didn't do it, I don't know, where else I could have ended up either.
Yeah, man, you're way ahead of me. I was like all into car studio or car audio equipment and like shoes, and up until I was like 22, and then I started making real money, and I was like still kind of into cars and shit like that. But then I actually started getting my money right and my finances in order, and it took me till about 23. So you're 5 years ahead of where me and Kyle were. So that's wild.
Now,
I'm trying to get my younger brother
Lydia
into it. I'm trying to get my younger brother into it, but he just doesn't get it.
how younger is your brother?
15.
Oh my God, man, you are. Bro, honestly, it's the most painful thing imaginable when you have, especially people you love and actually like really care about, and you try and get them down this path, and you end up just looking like a douche, just because, like, to you it's easy, and to them they don't either get it, something doesn't click, and it's the right path and you could help anybody out, but they just won't do it. And they just keep going back to the regular path. I know your brother's a lot younger, but I have people much older than me that I have been desperately like, and I finally just kind of stepped back and said, yo, like, this isn't my fight. And sometimes you just have to let things be, because, man, it's such
I want my family like prosper.
Oh yeah, man, you're something else here, man. At 18 to be saying what you're saying is just absolutely heartwarming for the holidays, to say the least. But that's a rarity.
The thing that's gonna suck is when I'm old and stuff. My kids are gonna want me to die to inherit my money and stuff. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, you already got the kid thing planned out, eh?
They're gonna want me to die to take the money,
No, man. Hopefully they don't want you to, because you'll have so much knowledge that they'll be learning from you, and they'll be doing it on their own. So hopefully they'll want you to keep living to help coach them and mentor them through and be where you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I do have kids, I'm gonna open an account for them. For sure.
Honestly, man, I think you could probably humble your kids if you do it right, because the path I went down, I honestly don't care about my parents' money whatsoever. I don't, like, if they wanted to spend every dime, they're welcome to. I don't ever look at it as an inheritance. So I mean, I help my parents do some of their investing and stuff like that, just to help them out. But honestly, I want to see them do well for themselves. And aside from that, I don't want a dime from them. I feel like they've done more than enough just to give me an opportunity to do what I'm doing. I could, like, there's no way I could be any more grateful than that. So I mean, it's really nice that you already have that kind of tone set, and you're so young, man. So I mean, in the meantime, while you're doing your factory job, you could definitely start trying to find a side hustle that you might enjoy a little more, because 30K a year is really replaceable. I mean, I work for myself, man, and I've consistently brought in usually 30 to 40K a year, working like 2 or 3 days a week. And then I do this stuff on the side here with Matt, and along with a few other things as well. And I mean, I still consider looking into a full-time job if somebody offered like the right deal. I mean, I wouldn't not put it aside either, as long as I can balance everything properly. That's why I was asking. Do you have any other plans? Are you looking into maybe even starting a YouTube channel or anything?
My parents want me to go to college because I just recently finished high school, but I don't want student loans and shit.
Yeah, so your parents aren't in the situation then to probably help fund you through college.
No, they don't have anything.
To be honest, man, it's a tough topic. I have this big debate with a lot of people, because a lot of people want to send their kids to school. And usually, especially in certain cultures, it is almost a bar none thing that you have to do today is get a secondary education. But
no, I'm not forced to do it, but they would like if I did it.
If you can find a passion that takes you down that road, man, I agree with it. But if you're going to do that path, it really comes down to getting a part-time job. One of my ex-girlfriends, I have a lot of respect for, just for the fact that she worked 2 part-time jobs while getting a 5-year degree, and she came out of school with hardly any loans. And I mean, I have to bow my head to her, just because that most of her friends came out almost 6 figures in debt, and she was very fortunate. to have done what she's done, because it's so dumb to come out of school with 50K in debt. It's just so terrible. I just was visiting my friend tonight, one of these guys that I can't, he doesn't know I do this stuff. I don't really shout it out too often, but he's 30K in debt, I think, still from student loans. And he's the same age I am, working a terrible job that he just does because his dad gives it to him, and he doesn't have any motivation. It's a shame, but I can't talk about the stuff with him because it would just be, it's always usually a little bit awkward because he's kind of hopeless. You know, when somebody has a hopeless mindset and you know they'll never find a path to maybe finding something greater in life, or actually pursuing something that might not be in their comfort zone and pushing themselves to find some greater good. But yeah, do you have any other questions? I imagine, like I said, I don't want to grill you too hard, but I'll let Matt jump in here if Matt's got any questions, and I'll start looking into some comments here as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I have this conversation a lot with people, and they always, I feel like the conversation nowadays when people are growing up and first going to getting out of high school is go to college, but it's not a go to college to get X sort of degree. I mean, you can go to, say, college, get a communications degree and still do well. But I feel like the majority of folks that say go get like a communications or political science or something like that, they don't end up doing extremely well, and they end up putting themselves in the hole, like you said, with debt. So, I mean, if you were to go to college, I would just be weary of the fact that you might have to do something like with mathematics, engineering, being a doctor, something like that. And if that's not the case, that's not something you want to do. You know, being a carpenter or being like a plumber even is extremely, extremely well paid. I have a friend that went to school in the southwest of the U.S. and went to 4 years out of state tuition, probably about 25,000 US a year, and ended up being about 100,000 US in debt, and came out of school, wasn't able to get a job, and ended up becoming a plumber anyway. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just one example where, you know, some people might be like, oh, well, a plumber, you know, they're looked down upon, but it's like, who cares when you have a multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in your own business, and you can work for yourself and help employ others and stuff like that. So don't overlook being a tradesman either. I mean, I don't think you would because you're currently working in a factory, but I think a lot of people think that being a tradesman isn't something to be desirable. But at the end of the day, they're probably some of the most well-paid people that I know. And even in somewhere that I live now, like Trinidad and Tobago, if you're a high-quality tradesman or a high-quality contractor or a high-quality, let's say, carpenter, you're going to be well sought after and well paid, and people will always come to your door because people are always going to be renovating their homes. People are always going to need, you know, plumbing and stuff like that. So college isn't the end all be all. So just be wary of that.
And if I can, sorry, I'm kind of clicking these things around here. If I can just jab you with a little note here, take a compound calculator and run the actual math on what a degree really costs, and keep that in mind. I think people severely forget the fact. Yeah, because you also got to include the fact that you're not going to be able to work either. So you have to also include the fact that the job you're working now, you have to deduct that from how much you're going to lose over the next 3 or 4 years being in school, because not only are you paying that, you're also not being able to make that. So I mean, and then pop that into the compound and just look at the rate of the return of the market and just realize that, you know, if you just worked for 5 years and saved that 30K or like half of that for the next 5 years, you might be even better off than getting the education. That's my biggest fear, and the reason I hated school the most was just when you look at that 5 year and you're like, oh my God, that 5 years could make me a millionaire just living at home and saving a minimum wage income if I just banked it right. So it's a big debate sometimes, but it depends on what your passion is. Just don't go for orthodontist. That's put people, the number one career for putting people $1 million in student loan debt is orthodontist. Blows my mind. Nick Cowles wants to join the live stream. I relinked it. Feel free to click that link, and we'll see if we can get another person in here as well. If any of you guys want to join, feel free to come on in.
Yeah, let's hear the stories.
Yeah, I know. I love hearing the stories, man. Everybody's got such an interesting perspective, and I really, really love it because we all come from such different places in life that forces us to do different things. But I'm just trying to read through some of the
comments. We all got the same goal in mind.
That's what I love about it, man. And it's fun too because the same respect goes for somebody starting out with a $500 or 1,000 to somebody that's got 1 million. We're all doing the same thing, and it's just that respect that comes from knowing that we all have that greater good in mind, and not and it's not just about the greed aspect of it either. Because there's sometimes I haven't seen too much greed in here either, which has been pretty nice considering. Because when you look at the day traders, there's usually a little bit more, of that gambling rush that people are looking for. Whereas
Yeah,
a lot of people get bored real fast in this game, man. This is a game that can get real boring real fast if you don't find the right morale behind it to keep you going. But this community helps for sure. Community helps for sure.
I don't see dividend stocks as greed. I see it as freedom.
It's the way to look at it, man. Freedom. The bills. They're free.
People who
Freedom
think
dollars.
all that stuff is greedy, they already failed.
Yeah, and it's also the frugal aspect of it, man, because I've seen cheap people that I thought were cheap for different reasons, but then I found out they were just being cheap for the sake of being cheap, and it really hurt me inside because I'm cheap to an extent, but I'll still go out and, I'll offer to buy for things or pick my parents up Christmas gifts. Like I'm not that, soul crushed, but at the same time, I've seen people when I go out and they have a lot of money and they're cheap and they don't do any investing, and when I find out why they're not, just being a little bit more relaxed about their income or just spending on stupid things, is because they have a lot of debt and they're buying like a lot of toys. And then it kind of hurts me inside a lot to see that's what keeps people back from traveling and spending time with family and friends. I know a lot of people out there that have a lot of debt, and they look like they're living the dream, man, but they ain't living the dream. They're working 7 days a week. Which is nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with working 7 days a week. It's just, it depends on what you're working for, right?
No, if you're in debt and you're working 7 days a week, that's your fault.
That's most people, though, man. That's most of the world right now. I get caught up in this community, and you got to kind of keep reminding yourself that like 80% of the world doesn't work the way we work. So you kind of got to, and you run into a lot of people, man, especially in my job. I meet all kinds of people. So I definitely get to see the richer side of people's thinking, and definitely the poorer side as well. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have any fun topics you want to talk about. If there's anything else you want to bring up, I still got my list of things that I've been going over.
I got a question.
Yeah, shoot.
So how do you deal with being frugal with girls and stuff? Because my last girlfriend, I spent like so much money. It was fucked.
I guess I'll pick up on that one because I know Matt's living the single life here. And honestly, man, don't waste your time. Dating is like one of the worst experiences ever, and it's usually a nightmare and a half. And you're young, so you're probably going to want to have some fun, but don't equate having fun to thinking that you have to be in a relationship either. I know it's kind of some people like to be players. It's not like you have to be a player, but at the same time, man, just I've seen how bad I've been through it. Luckily, it never costed me a whole lot, but I've seen what happens when it can cost you a whole lot. Yeah, man, you just got to find a girl that's on the same page, man. It's a tough deal. I got lucky because I met somebody that was a friend, started as a friend for a while, long before we started dating, but she's on the same page. She's really decent with her money. She enjoys, going out and traveling, but say not spending money on stupid stuff like going out to dinner every week or something like that. And if we are going out, it's usually for something insanely cheap. But it's hard, man. You got to find somebody. I dated a girl once, bro, that was spending $4,000 a month on her dad's credit card while she was in school. And I mean, her dad must have been wealthy, but at the same time, it was so awkward for me because it's just not my mindset. And it's something that it was one of the weirdest relationships I was in because it really conflicted with my way of living. And her attitude was willy nilly. Let's go out. Let's go here. Let's just do this. Why don't you want to spend money on this? Why do you care? Yeah. And it really hurt me inside because it's so awkward for some reason. Being in a relationship where somebody doesn't have to care about money or coming from that kind of wealth where you can be that frivolous. But to me, it's just like, if I'm going to spend money like that, I'm going to give it to charity. Honestly, it's just in my mind, it's if I'm going to be that ignorant with money, at some point you have to just wake up to reality and be like, you know what? If I'm going to be this dumb, I should be giving it to somebody that probably deserves it more than I do. But we're going to get somebody else on here as well. Nick's going to join in. So I'm glad we got somebody else to pop on. So I'm just going to join him in here. Probably more than I do. But we're going to get somebody else on here as well. Nick's going to join in. Oh, Nick, your mic's backfeeding.
All right. I hope this works. Can you hear me?
We're going to get your mic's backfeeding. Turn it down. Oh, Nick, your mic's. I'm just going to mute him for a quick sec here. Sorry, Mike. Yeah, I'm curious to why you're getting such a bad loop. I'll click you back in here in a sec. Hopefully there's not too much lag. It sounded like I was a bit of lag feed there, but I'd love to get your perspective. I'm going to pop you back on here. So we'll see if we can keep the lag. I'll click you back in here in a sec. Oh, there's not too much lag. It sounded like I was a bit of lag feed there. No, we still got some serious lag going on there, Nick. I'll give him a sec to work.
Still have the YouTube open and the StreamYard, so that might be why.
Oh, yeah. If you got the YouTube open, kill the YouTube video and just open up the StreamYard link there. We just, I guess, we just lost the stocks. Yeah. Well, I hope you're doing well, man. It was really good chatting to you. So enjoy your holidays. I hope you're going to stick around in the chat for a little bit. I'm not sure why we lost you there, but feel free to come back. It's always fun getting some youth in here. But yeah, I'm going to click you back on. So we got Nick in here, ladies and gentlemen. So happy holidays, Nick. It's good to see you in the stream. What's going on?
Yeah, what's up, man? How you guys doing?
Living the dream, brother.
Okay, so I got two questions. My first one is last month. Well, it's not really a question, but I'll toot my own horn. Last month, I finally got in the six-figure category in my portfolio. So
what I want to hear.
Which leads me into my next question. So going into 2020, obviously 19, we've had this crazy bull market, and I'm tech heavy. So my biggest position is Apple. Then I got Facebook because I'm waiting for them to pay a dividend in the future, $52 billion in cash, no debt. Come on, help me out, Zuckerberg. Then I got other dividend companies, like I got Starbucks in my portfolio. I got Waste Management, kind of some defensive plays. So do you think going into 2020, we should start looking for things that haven't done this in 19? Like I'm looking at Chevron for its dividend. I'm looking at CAT because that's not inflated. It's got good dividend growth. What do you guys think of? Should I keep loading up on tech stuff, or because the valuation's crazy, or should I start buying like CAT and Chevron and things that are kind of still low?
Can I ask you real quick what your exposure is to the tech sector right now, percentage wise?
It's probably 65-35. I mean, I'm pretty tech heavy.
And how many companies?
Probably 3 companies. I only have 8 companies in my portfolio, but it's way heavy, those 3 companies.
I'll maybe let Matt chime in, and then I'll give you my perspective on it as well.
So I guess my question, the counter question, I guess, would be is how do you do your economic analysis for your stocks?
Ooh, economic analysis. You're going to have to go into that a little bit.
So do you look at just the stock price going up and down, or do you actually say what's the free cash flow, what's the earnings looking like?
I kind of look at all of that. Like I look at companies like year to date that are kind of like 6%, and then I look at like free cash flow to debt, and then I kind of do a quick analysis of, hey, would I buy it? And then the other half the time I look at like, okay, Nick, what would I buy where I wouldn't watch it for 20 years and I know it's going to survive? Like Waste Management. I know somebody's always going to be there to take your trash out. Or I kind of backed off my Starbucks because I know when the recession hits, that's going to be one of the things that goes quick. So I kind of look at like just what's common sense versus, okay, I'll dig into the numbers. I'm kind of all over the board.
I guess my other question would be is what's your time horizon? Are you expecting this money like next year, 2 years from now, or like 30 years?
No, anything in the market I don't touch. I'm 32. I'll let my just compound over for my kids and my grandkids because I make a pretty good earned income. So I don't ever touch what's in my portfolio. And I got rental income coming in from a couple of buildings. So my stock stuff is just let it go.
Yeah. Interesting.
It depends on your tolerance level, man. Because I was definitely heavyweighted tech going into the beginning of the year, and I leveraged down in Apple. I would have been just as well keeping some money in Apple, but I'm really happy where I leveraged it, and I'm doing well with the positions that I have. But honestly, man, if you're getting into that 6-figure range, it's just asking yourself, is it time to maybe start diversifying? But it sounds like you might, if you've already got rental income coming in. Like I was a little worried that you were mainly stock market heavy. But those 8 positions sounded a little weak for 6 figures. But honestly, if you have real estate income, like you're probably pretty well diversified. Because for me, I'm 100% stock market, so I would never try and have that much exposure to just a few companies in the tech sector. So my tech companies make up maybe 20 or 30% of my portfolio. I try not to let any one sector kind of overweight by 30% just to keep myself somewhat mitigated against any kind of recession. And most of my stocks as well are what I would consider recessionary stocks, except for my techs. So we're talking like, obviously I own that prison stock I was talking about. We've got the sin stocks, your MOs of the world, your utilities, even though your utilities will dip, it's not like they're going anywhere. Your banks, because just your basic companies, right? But yeah, you sound like you're doing pretty well, man. So your six figures, is that the combination of everything that you currently own?
No, that's just stock market.
Oh wow, man. Good for you, man.
So is your objective specifically dividends, or is it income based, or is it value, like total value of the portfolio?
I think I'm trying to go more the route of dividends because I know I have so much time. Everything's on a drip, and I know trying to go after something that's going to move crazy in like 1 or 2 years is probably going to be not as good as like dividends over 30 years on a drip system. So I like anything with a good growth. So I know Cat's up there, Starbucks. I'm really heavy AT&T. I know Apple is going to be way up there eventually because it was like $3 and something for their 7-to-1 split in 2014. So I'm kind of just looking at dividend plays, and that kind of went into my next question of like, I want to get into what you guys think. What's oil going to do? Is that like a 3-decade and dead sector with Tesla and, NEO and Rivian and all these, everything's going to be EV eventually. So that was kind of my next question. But more of I'm just trying to go a dividend route because, again, I have rental income and my earned income is decent. So.
Matt's definitely going to probably chime in on the oil sector there for sure.
Okay.
I own no oil stocks whatsoever. Not the biggest fan of the oil sector. Dividends all the way, but I'm sure Matt wants to chime in there a little bit. I got to hear.
Yes, the oil sector is a little bit complex. There's a lot of moving parts, right? So there's different regions that are all trying to be the number one oil producer, and then there's all the aspects of, the U.S. can bring on a bunch of different easy completable wells at like any given moment. So that's why anytime you start seeing the price sort of increase, you'll see a bunch of new wells kind of come online, bring the price back down. So I obviously can't predict what the price will be and therefore what the actual companies will do. But I think for me, if I were to invest in the oil industry, I would look specifically at very low debt, energy independent companies. So companies like your Marathons or your Occidentals. Occidental's a little bit higher in debt now because of the mergers and stuff, but I wouldn't look at your highly leveraged small time players because at the moment they don't have the moat or the capital, long-term capital to survive if there were to say be a secondary recession in the oil markets. Companies like your BPs, your Shells, your Exxons, your Chevrons, they might have a lot more of capital to kind of drain. They're generally speaking in a very good debt band within, where you have like some of these smaller companies that are super leveraged because they're obviously trying to grow and become big players. So I would just be wary of that if you were to get involved. And I've been burned personally by smaller companies that are super leveraged because I'm like, okay, these guys are going to grow as big as they can, as fast as they can. And then, of course, any sort of upsets to the market, they're the first ones to go because obviously they have this large interest payment. So yeah, I agree with independent investor with Captain Ryan. I mean, I would just make sure that the companies that you're paying have a very good free cash flow, price to free cash flow. And I really like Shell at these prices. I really like Exxon at these prices. For some reason, I've never been drawn to investing in Chevron. Not to say that it's not a good play. I just don't have my due diligence on it. So I guess everyone in this stream can now understand that I don't probably work for Chevron. Anyway, that's kind of my view on the oil sector. But, so it's not really a final and definitive answer, but hopefully that gives you a kind of idea as to where my head's at.
Yeah, Matt's definitely heavily exposed to the industry. So, I mean, it's definitely a good investment for him. But honestly, man, for my investment strategy, I kind of avoid it like the plague. I've held oil stocks, as I talked with Matt before, with companies like Crescent Point Energy, Canadian oil sands that got bought out by Suncor. I lived through a few of them, but oh man, they just, I can't grasp them enough to want to own them. So I mean, I don't know exactly what your investment philosophy is, but you sound like you stick to some pretty few companies that you like and understand. And honestly, you're doing pretty well with it, man. I would just avoid the oil sector altogether. Same with I owned Starbucks for a little bit, but I ended up selling it to kind of migrate into fewer stocks. But what's your end game like? Are you looking to live off the dividends? Do you have a really good job right now? Like, what kind of circumstances are you in?
Yeah, I do. I don't want to go into I do really well with earned income, and then I have a couple buildings providing rental income. I have some mortgages on those buildings, so I get a little bit of cash flow off of it. But just because I make pretty good earned income, I don't need to touch my stock account. So I try and live off the philosophy of if I can save at least 30-40% of my earned income and stick that in the market. And then I like to piggyback things. So if I make good money in the market, I'll take it out and I'll go buy another building. Or when I make good money on rental income, I'll push that in the market and buy stock that I like. So that kind of, oh man, I'm getting all over the board. I apologize.
No, it's good, man. You sound like you're really good here. I'm really loving this. You sound like you're doing pretty well for yourself, man. I listen to a lot of guys that do the same exact thing you're doing right now. That they'll just roll cake over into some kind of tax account or whatever, tax advantage account. I don't know what it's like in the States. Canada gives us some pretty good bonuses, and then they just as soon as they build up that minimum requirement, they pull it out straight into real estate, and they make on real estate back into the account till it builds up. And I mean, it's a brilliant way to continue to leverage your wealth. I think I've seen people do it quite successfully. But you sound like you've got a really good head on your shoulders. You said you have a couple. How many kids do you have? You got a family?
I have one on the way, so I know that's going to eat into my, trying to stash 40-30% away. But kind of like the game plan, I want to just build up as many dividend good companies. I'm not looking for $20 and $30 stocks because I did that with AT&T. I bought a ton of it, but I know the price of AT&T isn't really going to fluctuate between 29 and 45 over the next, even with Elliott Management in there cleaning it up with the whole DirecTV. So I've done that, and then I've looked at companies that have just explosive dividend growth, like your Apples, your Starbucks, your Caterpillars, and I'm trying to just buy as much as that as I can because those companies aren't going anywhere, and I know the growth is just going to keep going. So that's kind of my game plan with the market.
So your time horizon's fairly laid out then. How long is your time horizon with these stocks?
I'm 30, so for my kids and my grandkids, I probably got 40 years. Yeah.
So yeah, you're really looking for the long term. So you have no short, because obviously with the real estate, it definitely gives you a little bit more freedom from your stock portfolio. Out of fear, I set my stock portfolio up in a way that if I had to tomorrow, I could tap into the income, and I really like keeping it as liquid that way as possible. But in your circumstances, obviously, it would make a lot more sense to perhaps take on those lower yielding companies. Obviously, I do own Apple, Microsoft as well, but not to the extent because I'd rather get the dividend income. So I'm focused fairly heavy dividend stocks. Okay. But for my short term, I think it's going to work out pretty well. But yeah, man, you sound like you're crushing it, to be honest. How long have you been investing for in general? If you're only 30.
A few years now. I got into it. My grandparents introduced me to it, and yeah, I've only been in the bull market, but I'm trying to prep myself. I always have a philosophy like whatever's in my portfolio that's liquid, I always think I have half of that because I know a bear market can come in and run all over us. So I look at it like that.
See, that's the problem too, because with the companies that you're holding, you're pretty much riding it out for the long term. So you're going to probably experience some volatility somewhere along the way. Whereas with me, I could care less about the volatility. It wouldn't really phase me, considering like the volatility my portfolio experienced at the beginning or going into 2018 was pretty wild. But you kind of get adjusted to it. And honestly, because I'm just looking at the dividend income along with putting my working capital into it, I honestly don't really, the volatility never seems to phase me. But it's right now in the markets, though, things have gotten out of control, man. I've never gone through this emotion of, oh my God, this is amazing. I didn't see this coming. And then again. Okay, well, I still want to buy some of these companies. Like, what's going on? Like, come on, guys. Like, you take some profits already. So
yeah, it's like the last week and a half. Every time I turn on CNBC, the market's up, and I'm like, this reminds me of like the 2000s. Like,
yeah,
it can only get bigger and bigger. And when everybody's coming in, that's when you want to slow it way down because go cash heavy. Like I think you've mentioned in some of your videos, rolling into 2020, we should start saving some cash. And I'm looking at that, but I have just like a hard time of cash sitting, because to me that's lazy money and I want it to work, but I know, oh man, we're way at the top right now. So what
So I
do
mean,
you guys
your
doing?
objective is cash flow, right? So the way I would look at it is personally is for me is I look at 2000, I look at 2008, and what I basically did was look at the ETFs like the S&P 500 ETF, and what I saw was yes, year over year from 2008 to 2009, the dip was like 50-60%, but the income really only got hit by 20%, and that's what I'm going for is the income. And so yes, the value of your portfolio might go down 50-60%, but a portion of those, not all of them, but let's say a subset of those stocks might cut the dividend, maybe completely, and maybe some of them will go bankrupt. But if you look from 2008 to where we are today, we're over double the price in the S&P 500. We're almost double the price in the Dow Jones Industrial. So it's like if you're investing for 20, 30 years, in my opinion, don't let the next 1 to 2 years dictate the other 28 or let's say 18 years, right? So don't let 10% of your remaining time horizon dictate the other 90%. So I mean, like you said, unless you're only really going to be put in a horrible position if you lose your earned income. And so that's the way my view is at the moment is, yes, I might say have 300 or so $1,000 invested, and yes, it might go to 150 tomorrow, but I would still be getting about $10,000 worth of dividends, even if some of those companies cut, which a lot of them haven't in the past. And I don't think that any of them are in a debt position where they would, if given some sort of 2008 or 2000 sort of recession were to happen again. And so if some of those companies, or say one or two of those positions go out and bust, yes, you might be kind of vulnerable because you only have 8 positions, but at the end of the day, you still have an earned income. And think about now you're investing in companies where the prices drop 50%, and you're going to be able to buy twice as much stock as you were than last week or a month before. And now you have an idea as to what companies are financially stable, which ones aren't. So you're kind of almost at an advantage at that point if you're dollar cost averaging month over month. And so that's the way I personally look at it. That's how I personally am going to approach it, is because I'm only 28, right? And I anticipate this is going to happen another 2-3 times in my investing career, if not more. So that's my thought, because my goal is income. It's not a total dollar value. And so I've kind of switched my mindset to be like, yeah, the total dollar value of the portfolio is awesome, but I'm caring about that baseline income, because like you, I want to get into real estate. I want to get into other businesses as well. So
Okay, I know everybody says time in the market is more valuable than timing the market, and I look at it like what you're saying. Even if the market dips, which it will, everything's on a drip system. So I'm just I'm repurchasing shares at a cheaper price, which means I get more. Like AT&T, if that dips back down to $31, $32, then hey, I'm sitting pretty. So okay.
Hey man, we might not get a crash. You never know. I'm still sitting here on Janet Yellen's quote. I still bring it up all the time, man. She made that quote after Kate. I'm still believing in the great Janet Yellen, man. That lady. Did you see the speech?
Mm.
No? Oh, man. You got to go back and do a bit of history lesson there. After 2008, Janet Yellen said it'll be severely unlikely that in our lifetime there'll be another severe stock market crash.
Oh, that was the federal. Okay, yeah, I saw a blip of it. There you go. On CNBC, they showed
yeah.
it.
I can't get over it, man, because everyone talks about it, and every time it doesn't happen or we have a little blip and then a recovery, I'm like, wow, she still holds true, because we're in some really weird economic times, my friend. I just don't like dumb money getting in the markets, because when dumb money starts making money, then things get out of control.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
okay, well, I apologize to take all your time. Can I pick your brain on one more thing?
Yeah, man.
Okay, so I know you're holding GEO. Are you still holding GEO?
Yeah.
Okay, I am too, and I've done a little bit of research, so I kind of want to get your perspective on it. I know the company makes a ton of money. The CEO said the dividend is safe, but I know ICE is 30% of revenue, and if a Democrat gets in, I know politics has crushed that stock price, and that's the only reason why Are you looking at adding to that position for the dividend? Are you looking at just keeping it where it is, or what are you doing with it?
Yeah, it's definitely been one of those stocks that is constantly reminding myself if I've done my homework correctly. And obviously, you have the way I've imagined that company is if you're buying it, I try and look at it as though I am standing behind my assets. What am I fighting against? And how much can they take from me? And honestly, I don't think it is severely as bad as they make it out to be, as in their conference calls all the time. They constantly talk about how most of this is fake news. And for some reason, it seems to constantly be a battle of the wits, because here we had California that just banned prisons coming into 2020, starting January 1st, no private prisons anymore. But then all of a sudden, the ICE and Trump just slipped in a contract that gives them another 15 years of these new prison facilities that they're opening up, I guess, for over the border issues they're having with Mexico. So, I mean, it's in their revenues, the stream just keeps going up and up and up. And I think it's kind of like the angel and demon constantly fighting. But honestly, I just can't see it taking much more of a hit than it already has, even if one of these other guys get elected. And you got to remember, what they're fighting against isn't the entire company. They're fighting against that little portion that are those like long-term prisoners that have to pay to use amenities like phone service, to buy certain products. Like, they're paying a premium, and we're getting that premium. And unfortunately, some people despise that. And then when we see things happen in these prisons that get apparently overblown in the media, I don't know the extent of them, but they kind of reassure in the conference calls that a lot of it isn't what they're saying it is. So, I mean, you're looking at a multi-billion-dollar prison system, which is essentially just a REIT, as they sell it. It says a real estate investment trust that pays an absurd dividend yield that they can afford to pay. And you're getting global exposure, because you're talking about prisons in Africa, the UK, Australia, right? So, I mean, I'm pretty sure, I don't know about the UK, but I'm pretty sure it's Australia for sure.
Yeah.
And they're opening up new facilities constantly. I think they're taking over a new bus system, and I don't know if that was the thing that I heard about in the UK or something. I just honestly, man, I just can't see the company going anywhere, and I really like it. Just fits the morale base of what I'm trying to build with my sin stocks, because I wanted some kind of. I just like it as a REIT. It's a weird REIT that it's just really weird. So it fits my weird sin stocks where I've got my tobacco stocks, my prison stock, and then my J&J. I consider all those companies kind of similar companies. They constantly go through headwinds on a regular basis. They're used to it. They've been around for a very long time. And what are you going to do? You're just going to uplift the entire prison system? How do you do that?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, ask yourself that. It's the question I keep asking myself. I'm like, what actually has to happen to uproot the entire prison system? You'd have to buy us out. There's no other way to do it. Yeah. So, I mean, I've held strong. I watched it drop down to 13. I bought a bit more with dividends all the way down. And then as soon as the new year turns over, because I'm holding it in my tax advantaged account, I'll put more money in than I'm allowed to contribute, and I'll probably purchase at least another $1,000 or $2,000 worth of it more, and then be done with it. I'll probably never look at it again and just reinvest the dividend into other companies.
Okay.
But it's still risky. There is still an absurd amount of risk, because I don't know what the political blowout could be. I'm just playing damage control in my mind, trying to figure out how bad could it really be compared to what the stock price currently sits at, with the valuations behind it. But the balance sheet's nice. I mean, it's got a nice balance sheet.
Yeah, they make a ton of money every quarter. And my wife's, I guess, dad's girlfriend works for the state. She's like one of those big wigs that does tech for all the prisons. And I asked her about it, and she's like, oh, no, prisons are here to stay in California. So whatever you think is going to go on, like, they have to be here. And it's just, like I said, it's super undervalued. The CEO said the dividend's safe. They make a ton of money. I bought a few hundred shares of it when Trump got in office, when it boomed to like 30 something, and I just put it on a drip. So I'm sitting on probably, I think I'm at like 490 shares of it, and I'm just going to let it do its thing. But
it's volatile, man. It's volatile. You did the same thing. I tried to catch it on the first dip that it had, but I wasn't expecting the drama to resurface as bad as it did. And then, my average buy price on it right now, I think, is somewhere around the $20, $21 mark. I'm trying to get my cost average below 20. But honestly, man, I still think in the long term, this company could do amazing. So you just kind of got to sit and ride the volatility, because, I mean, it's not a roller coaster for the weak-hearted. I mean, you're going to experience some severe volatility with this guy.
It reminded me of like Tesla back in the day and Netflix, and man, I had my heart going like this owning both those stocks for a while. So I understand the volatility craze. So
Yeah, it's been interesting. Well, have you ever had any major losses? Like when you got into the stock market, what were your first positions you started getting attracted to, and how did that work out for you? Because I know most people have a lot of issues, like me and Matt did in the beginning. It's usually a pretty rocky start.
Yeah, it wasn't so rocky with me because I've only been in a few years during the crazy, bull market. I transferred my entire 401k over from working a corporate job back in the day when Apple was at 230 and then it dipped to 216. And I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest gift in the world. And I rolled it all in there and then Apple fell to 142. And yeah, what are you going to do? Just you only lose money when you sell. So I said, I think personally, Apple's the greatest company in the world. I think it's got the best brand loyalty. I think Tim Cook is an absolute genius. Um, it's got so many things in the works. So I said, you know what? That's a company I'm going to hold forever. But that was probably my biggest hit, watching 216 go down to 140, and my 401k was like half of what it was. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. But
It's a good company, man. I remember when I bought my mom into Apple for the first time, and it was just over the first time it hit all time highs, somewhere around just over the $210 mark. It took a little bit of a dip after it hit its all time highs of 215 or something. Bought her in, and then the whole thing tanked down to like 170, and she got kind of skittish. And I'm like, just wait, come back to me. Give it a year or two. Come back to me. I'm like, you're not going to regret this decision. There's no way. And sure enough, I mean, look at it now, right? And it hasn't even been like a couple years yet. It's like whoa. So
Yeah,
those are common.
it was kind of like it wasn't an Apple thing because I know the whole market this time last year was just in absolute chaos. So I know it was a blip. And I kind of look at the stock market as like a group of high school cheerleaders. Like if one's pissed off, the whole group's going to get pissed off, and that's kind of what it did. And then if one's happy, they're all happy, and they all go up, and we're all kind of like that's how I
Yeah.
look at the market. So. But yeah, that was my only one real like, ooh man, time. And then I own Netflix. I bought in at like 125. It went all the way up to 400, and I thought I'm the greatest investor in the world. And then it fell way down. And then that's the only company that I've actually sold out of because my stupid self listen to all the idiots on TV talk about Disney Plus and operating on negative cash flow. And I eventually, after the last earnings call, I was in Hawaii and I was on the phone at like 2:30. And my wife's like, "Shut up out there on the balcony," because they're New York time. So that's the only company I've ever sold out of that I bought. So I'm a firm believer in buy good companies and just stick with them and ride it out. So kind of some
Nice,
Buffett
man.
philosophy, but. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate picking your brains. So
Yeah, I'll let you
thank
enjoy
you,
your
man.
night, man. Happy holidays, all the best. Thanks for popping on. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, keep checking in with us, man. You got an interesting portfolio going on. I'd love to keep in touch.
definitely, man. Happy holidays to you guys. Merry Christmas, and thanks for having me on. I'll let you guys
Stay
go.
awesome, man. Stay awesome.
Yeah, thanks, guys. See ya.
Cheers. There we go. Yeah, man. So it's been an interesting evening so far. We got a lot of good discussions in here. I noticed we're starting to lose some viewer base. I think at our peak here, we hit over 30, which is pretty impressive. So I'm really happy that all these guys came out. We got about 21 floating around here still with us. Again, if any of you guys just want to pop on real quick, I don't know how much of a rush you're in there, Matt, but
Nah, I got all the time in the world. I don't have to be anywhere till like 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. So.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Yeah, I got more car problems.
Oh, really?
Again.
What's going down?
Oh God, valve stems, man. These tires. It's like the number one problem I have with them. I went over to my buddies real quick, and I filled my tire up because it's been having this slow leak. But now the leak's so bad, I know where it's coming from, and it's the valve stem. So I can't drive too far. I'm gonna have to take my tire off first thing in the morning, throw it in the back of the truck, and then try and find a Canadian Tire somewhere along the way to my girlfriend's house, which is luckily an hour away. So I can hopefully drop it off somewhere and pick it up on the way back. Luckily, I don't have any real jobs until Saturday, so I'm not really leaving the house too much. Except just going to do some family stuff tomorrow. But yeah, man, stupid cars. Speaking about cars, what are you driving? Are you on a rental right now? You've been all over the states. Jeez, what are you driving?
Luckily, my parents they have it's actually my grandfather's old car that he bought back in like 2004. So been driving that around every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, it's nice not having like a car payment or anything like that. And at least like the only car problems I've had over like the past 6 months, I had like a flat tire, and because we leased the car, I'm technically not, for some reason, I'm not allowed to like do anything to it or something like that. Like
Oh,
we like, because I don't know, I guess it's like a contract with the company or something that I'm not allowed to like do any work or something like that. So um, I had to just call. So I had like a flat, and I pulled into my apartment complex and called. But anyway, they took care of it. So luckily for that. But yeah, it's nice not having a car payment or any insurance or anything like that right now. It's nice having that all sort of taken care of,
I'm
for
hoping
sure.
maybe one day I can get my life in a position where I'm not too worried about a vehicle, because right now I'm trying to downsize my car, but ideally I would love to be in a position where my girlfriend's in the same position, man. She doesn't really need a car. She's kind of going to work. She's a little more central to the city. She's very fortunate that way. But it's comes back to that point. You're either paying to live in the city or you're paying to drive there. But honestly, if I could sucker that apartment out of my, I don't know if you were here for that discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe where my buddy there. What an awesome dude, man. I went and hung out with him, and on the top of his condo, he's got this loud bell we were ringing. Really awesome dude, but I'm just like, man, $950 a month in Toronto. Oh my God, buddy. I'm like, I don't even
It's
want to live
dirt
in this
cheap, man.
city, but I'd live in the city for that price. I'm like,
Yeah, nine
uh,
fifty is cheap, man.
and it's a
And
good
that's
location,
and
man.
that's CAD, right? That's not even US. That's
I,
Canadian.
it's wild. It's honestly mind-boggling. My other option though for living when I get to that point, I got to figure out what the girlfriend wants to do too, right? It kind of comes down because I wouldn't mind trying to move out with her, but it depends on her lifestyle and what she's kind of after too. Because I don't think she's too fond of the basement apartment idea. Depending, but you can also rent like the upstairs of a place too. But it really depends on our income over the next couple of years. But at the rate we're doing, I don't know, might not be too bad. I just want to do what me and you've been talking about, get like a little studio set up. And try and find a
Yeah.
way to manage things from a central place instead of me having to constantly be going everywhere, because my job is just ridiculous. My job is ridiculous. Uh,
Yeah, the hope is to get the income up there, man, and we'll see. I mean, I'm gonna try my best, and sometimes I like think about it. I'm like, oh man, I haven't done anything in like 2 or 3 days. I feel real lazy, but it seems like things are working, and it seems like we're getting some pretty good education out there, which is the real big thing. Is not for me and you, but I think the more that we're educating, the more that we're informing, we're re-coaching folks that were potentially misinformed or miseducated about financial markets. It's going to show up in the value to me and you, right? So
yeah, no,
the
for
more
sure.
influence and value that we bring to the people will be reflected in how we're doing. So
And
that's the hope.
it's incredible. There's such a hole here for people that are learning. As we just had that, he's actually back. I don't know if he wants to rejoin in. You're welcome to Stocks. He just popped back on. I'm not sure where he went, but it's nice getting the perspective that there are people that are actually at a severely young age that are taking some advice and listening to all kinds of people like me and yourself, and getting to learn from
Yeah.
them as well. But I think it's incredible at that age, man, because I just look at how, man, the things that I did when I was that age, I can't get over how long it took me to get to this point, and the fact that,
Yeah.
that we're helping build that community as well. I think it's a really wonderful thing, man, and it's weird to be talking about this stuff over the holidays. Everyone keeps talking about it. I seen it on a few videos where they're like, not going to post a video over the holidays. It seems a little slow, finances and money. And I'm like, yeah, I know, right? It's a tough thing to just start bringing up, because I'm definitely making time for the family, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I'm a little bored this evening. I'm sure there's a lot of people clearly sitting around. I don't know who's working over the holidays here, but I'm definitely just taking it easy, probably for the next few days, nonetheless. Maybe try and slip in a few updates on the website and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
nothing crazy. Oh my God, my buddy's here. What is going
Yeah.
on, Damon? Yes, hashtag van life. I would totally live in the city in a van. What is going on, man? I got to catch up with Damon. Damon's an old bud, man. He's pretty much family. I think he is technically family. By like, he's somehow related to one of my uncles, man. Me and this guy have a lot of history here. I can't believe he just popped on
Yeah.
a live stream. Yeah, Damon, man, if you got decent internet connection, definitely pop on. I'd love to get you in here, because this is the guy I mentioned to you about that might be able to do some of helping with the videos, maybe doing some of the edits, or maybe hooking us up with some people in the Philippines.
Yeah.
That's
Good
this
man.
guy. This guy knows way too much about some stuff that
That's good.
I'm hoping he could help us out with maybe down the road here.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, getting back to what we were just talking about, I mean, the education of things. I'm really, I guess, encouraged by the outpour of audience people that we've kind of been seeing over the past, let's say, year and a half, 2 years, and it's continuing to grow and grow. But my fear is, and I hope I'm proven wrong, is that people are really looking into it because the market is doing so well and everybody and their grandmother is joining the markets. And so my fear is that if the markets do take a turn for the worse, that we'll lose, I guess, we'll lose people joining the community, and we'll lose people in the community as well, because they're not seeing the true vision of, say, it's about income and it's not about the total value of the portfolio. The value of the portfolio is nice, but if your goal is dividend investing, then it's about the dividend income and not about the value. If you invest in the right companies, yes, the value might go down 50% for a year, maybe two. But just like you were talking about with Apple, high quality companies, they'll bounce right back up and continue to grow and continue to provide value to the people, which will then in turn show back up in the amount of money that they make. And so my fear is that if we do enter some sort of recession over the next 2 years, that the people that have been miseducated will be like, you know what, these guys, didn't know what they were talking about. They'll sell everything. They'll be like, I should have never listened to it. It's all a scam. The stock market's a hoax. I should have just stuck my money in a savings account, never did anything with it. But then within the next 5 years, they'd be right back to where they were, being like, I need to get in the market, man. Everyone's, making money in the stock market. And so I always see this like constant cycle. I've seen it with folks that are just 10 years older than I am. And so I just hope that folks view on a more macroeconomic scale, understand where they are in their economic cycle of their own personal lives, and understand, yeah, if you need money in the next 1 to 2 years, take it off the table. You know what I mean? If you're fearful that there's going to be a market collapse and you're, say, 60, 65 years old and you need that money, then, your time horizon's short, and you need to be a lot more concerned about the day-to-day value of your positions. But if you are someone like myself or Kyle or like our buddy Stocks that joined earlier, don't let the next 1 to 2 years dictate, how you're going to be investing for the next 30 years.
I think that's a really good point, because I keep forgetting. It really put me that into my perspective, just because I keep forgetting that me and you are so young, and like me and you don't care about a stock market crash. But I think it's important to recognize the people out there that might be in their 50s or 60s or getting really close to retirement, because I keep forgetting that a lot too, right? Because I try and help my mom out as much as possible with cash flow, so she doesn't have to worry as much about that situation. But they're also not like severely leveraged in the markets. But if somebody's getting real close to retirement and they're absolutely trying to require certain levels of the market to keep their living standard to where they need it to be in retirement, I think it's very important that they also, like you said, pay close attention to the way they're diversifying their portfolio. But I keep forgetting that.
It also very much depends on where they are in their portfolio. If they're making, say, if they're making, let's say, $50,000 a year in dividends, and all they need is 25,000, in dividends, then no point in even selling, because like they're covering their expenses. But if they say like need that $100,000 or something like that, which is not going to be able to, like total value $100,000, and they're going to need that to be able to survive. That $100,000 might provide $4,000 or $5,000 in income. Maybe that's not enough for them to live. Then yeah, maybe they need to worry about that next 1 to 2 years for sure.
I want to maybe touch base with you real quick on something that people here might find a little bit more refreshing nonetheless. Did you watch some of the little bit of controversy that recently just happened with Mr. Beast? They were giving away that $1 million, and then they had Meet Kevin just made a video on it because essentially they did this big build up to giving away $1 million, and this guy wins it, but he doesn't exactly win the money. He actually has to spend the money buying things, and they kind of really hype up the idea of, oh, well, we want to make sure he's also investing it, not just spending it. And they end up getting some stockbroker and give him like 50 grand. And they never actually reveal what they ended up buying or investing in. And the only home they ended up buying was a home for them to live in. And I think I haven't watched Meet Kevin's video yet, but I'm so excited just to see his perspective on, you should have just bought like 10 duplexes. Because man, I was like, this guy's going to be set up for his life. Like he's getting $1 million and they're going to help him invest it. I'm like, this is going to be amazing. And then they spent almost all of it on just stuff. But with 50,000 left over after taxes to invest, it was really a kind of disheartening. But yeah, Hidden Freedom, you should pop back on here, man. I'd love to.
Hot Dave, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've been dying to get a bit of an interview here with Hidden Freedom as well. But yeah, I've been trying to keep up with some more of the recent news for you guys and just talking about some of the stuff going on because it's been kind of interesting. This has been one of the most interesting holiday seasons I think I've seen in quite a couple years, man. It has been unbelievable on so many spectrums between the markets and just how everything seems to be trucking along. And just everybody seems to be doing. It's a bit of a chipper holiday season for most people, I imagine. No one jumping off the banks this year, that's for sure. But if you guys want some more, do you watch South Park at all? I'm going to side tangent the heck out of this.
I wish, man. I used to when I was a little bit younger. Probably I want to say like 15 years ago, but now I only catch like 1 or 2 episodes, maybe a year, if that. So I wish I caught more.
I never liked South Park for the longest time, and I was in and out of it, but I haven't watched it for years. And then all of a sudden, this last season has been absolutely hilarious. But I made my mom watch their Christmas special, and oh my god, even my mom hates cartoons, and she even thought it was funny. She's like, "How did I let you guys watch this when you were kids? It's so bad." I know, but I'm like, it was so funny. If you guys want some humor over the holidays, you got to watch the South Park Christmas special. I'm not even a big fan of South Park, but you'll get a big kick out of it because it's all about holiday cheer and just the big dilemma of drinking and driving and stuff. They did such a good job of it. I can see why Joe Rogan really applauds their comedy. They must have a really good team behind them to kind of come up with the different levels of perspectives on like how the holidays actually are. There's a lot of drinking and driving. There's been so many accidents already here, man.
Have you ever seen the documentary that they did about South Park, 7 Days to Air?
I don't think so, no.
No, it's like, so what they do, and the reason why they generally are so relevant is they start planning the episode as the last episode is currently playing. So they literally do an episode, all the cartooning, all the voiceovers and everything within 7 days between episodes to episodes. And so literally, like, sometimes they'll say like they're literally running to get the final rendition of the disc out to wherever they broadcast or whatever, like 10 minutes before they even put it on air, because they are literally finishing it like up until the last minute. It's a really cool documentary. If you could, I'm sure it's on YouTube.
Yeah, take a look. But I guess at this point, man, I don't know. You're probably getting pretty tired. We're losing a lot of viewers at this point. I think they're just getting exhausted. This has been my personal Christmas special, nonetheless, because I'm not going to be posting anything tomorrow. But I don't know if you're going to go hop on your stream if you want me to join you there. I don't know if it's too late for you to want to try and do one on your channel, perhaps. We'll join everybody over there. Do you want to try that out, or it's too late?
I would have to get my laptop up. My laptop is, I'm so lazy to go buy a new laptop that I have to like bring, like I can't just like set up a laptop anymore. It has to be like with the charger plugged into the charger. Otherwise it just is dead.
Yeah, no.
So I need to, once I get some more business income, I'll probably be buying myself a new laptop that I can write off.
Yeah, I kind of just bought the cheapest laptop I could get that was like gaming level, but like the low end gaming level, because I just need to do bits of edits. I'm running an MSI GeForce here. It's not terrible, but it's definitely terrible on battery life, and I got no room. I got an extra terabyte I had to pop into her. But yeah, man, I don't know. Maybe I'll let you enjoy your evening here. We still got a few people floating around, but I don't think we're gonna drive you guys into this later evening, because I'm sure you guys got some plans maybe over the holidays. And
no
we're here.
Questions or anything like that?
No, I don't think there's too many questions going on. Like I said, I think people are just kind of winding down here. But I think this has been a really good, entertaining Christmas special for my channel, nonetheless. I really wanted to get one more live stream in here. I figured people might be floating around on this Monday evening. So I'm really glad for the people that are still joining us, too. We got 19 viewers here, man, that are just sitting in, listening to us in the background. So I really appreciate you guys. I really hope you guys are having a safe and going to be having an entertaining holiday with your family, because you guys are pretty much family, too. That's why I wanted to join the stream and just kind of touch base with everyone that wanted to, still connect with the investing fam on the YouTubes here, which seems to be incredible. Do you have any last words, Matt? Holiday season?
Nah, just be safe and keep your heads up, and we'll definitely chime in next year. And if you haven't, watch my video, man. I just talked about every single position I own, which a lot of people always ask me for. So.
And we're got to do a New Year's special. That's going to be the big one. We got to figure out how we can do some kind of good New Year's special and kind of do a big blowout of how the stock market finished and where we actually ended it off. And we'll have to maybe do a good overview of our best positions, our worst positions, and then we'll start talking about our future plans because we've got to start sitting down and, figuring out our 2020 goals here. But
yeah, you got me thinking because there's a whole bunch of videos every time there's a new month or a new year or anything like that. Yeah, and it's starting to make me think. I keep forgetting that it's going to be a new decade as well. The Roaring '20s are back, and I can't wait for the Gatsby clothes and all that again. So, got to whip out some of the old fancy Roaring '20s attire that I've been waiting to whip out. So
yeah, man, it's crazy that it's already been a decade since before. It's a shame I haven't been investing for the last decade, but nonetheless, I'm glad I've captured some last 5 years of it, anyways. But yeah, we're losing a bunch of people. Merry Christmas! We're getting some good Christmas, some good viewer. Happy holiday Christmas things here. We'll just do a few shout outs to finish her off. Gen X is still floating around, so definitely happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you as well, Gen X. It was really great seeing you here just before the holidays. Nobody should drink and drive. You need to get these 2020 gains in the bull market. I really agree with you, my friend. I'm glad that I quit drinking a little while ago. It makes me super moody and depressed, so I quit drinking. I hope you guys have a safe holiday as well. Hidden Freedom, if you're still floating around, happy holidays as well. Just to everybody else that's still here, man. You guys make all of
Captain
this.
Ryan's still on. God bless you, Captain Ryan.
You guys make all of this so much more better, and you kind of directed me to where I am today. So I'm hoping I'm doing that for some people, and I'm hoping some of you are going to continue directing me as well. So stay cool, stay awesome, everybody, and I'll catch you in a sec here on the back end, Matt. Peace out, guys.
Yeah.